let's get straight into it. I'm very excited to be here today to be able to talk about cultivating fun and innovative team culture. It's probably a dream come true that I'm able to deliver this webinar, because all the years of experience, over 15 years working in so many different organizations, and I've wanted to be able to capture everything I've learned over the years in creating a fun and innovative team culture. So here we are today, so I'm very excited moving forward. So first thing is to just go through and talk a little bit about the agenda. We'll talk a bit about team dynamics and look at first the 4 stages of team development, just some basics. Team exploration, we'll look at then how to build connection within your teams using the forward method and leading with vision and values. Then we'll look at a little bit on communication skills, and then fun and engagement strategies are in team meetings and team building activities, which is all the fun stuff from various companies I've worked with. And then we'll talk about some of these concepts, 6 thinking hats and design thinking, which are all awesome tools to use at work. I just wanted to get to know you all as well here today. We've got 24 participants. So what about you? Chat when you're ready. You can just launch the 2 poll questions. That'll be wonderful. Thank you. First question, what position do you hold? We're just waiting for final votes.
I think everyone has voted. I'm just going to end the poll.
Thank you.
Share the results.
Okay. So mostly managers, 84%. I feel like I've hit the jackpot today. Well, welcome managers and everyone else. Thank you for being here as well. So we've got a variety of people, but 84% of managers. Fantastic. Okay. And then just a simple question. Have you worked in a fun and innovative team? Yes, no, or maybe. This will be very interesting. Majority of managers to see if they have worked in a fun and innovative team. So we have 67% says yes, no, and 17% no, and 17% maybe. Thank you. All right. Okay, so a bit about my background. I started my career working in an employment agency called IPC Employment, and over the years I've worked in a number of different companies. In my business, my focus, I have been in my business for 12 years, and as I do work part-time with Western Sydney University, Thursdays and Fridays, where I'll be sharing with you some of the great success stories there as well. Some amazing examples from Commonwealth Bank that you'll hear in a moment. So in terms of engagement strategies, just you'll see there, I will invite you to do some mindfulness practice called box breathing, 16 seconds to refresh your mind. And there's a lot of content we're going through today as quickly as possible. I will invite you to just use it to chat, just to answer some closed questions, yes, no, maybes. And I will check the Zoom chat from time to time. And so if I may stay back 5-10 minutes, if you're welcome to stay back if you have any questions at the end. So first things first, I'll just talk through what does success look like when you're working in a high performing team that's fun and innovative, worked my previous team, when I was at a university, Charmaine, Jackie and Jeff and myself were in a team together. There were 4 of us. We were all consultants where we were coaching and delivering training in the areas of career development for students and graduates. So we worked very, very closely together. We sat right next to each other. And it was the best team. Why? Our values and vision were aligned. The value of contribution, helping, making a difference. We all had that in our mind and our heart, and we were all student focused. So that was the first thing to acknowledge, that was what made it successful. And then after we deliver consultations, workshops, or any events we attended for training, we would then share the knowledge and experience. We'd come out of a workshop or we'll come out of a consultation and say, this happened with this student, this is how I went about it, this is what I learned, this is how I'll improve it next time. So there was just that a community of practice that we were in a team that we were cultivating. We were adaptable and flexible. We shared the workload. So one of the tasks that we had as a team was to review resumes, 10 to 15 minutes to review and comment on a resume. And sometimes we'll go into work, there'll be 20 student resumes that come in, and we will share the workload and we'll just jump in and get it done. Yes.
Sorry, some people are saying that they can't hear you.
They can't hear me.
Are you muted? Or Anna, some saying that they can, and some people are saying that they can't hear you.
I am definitely not muted. Can you hear me, chat?
Fine. Yes, I can hear you as well. So it must be from other end. Others can.
Okay. We have recorded this. So if there's any issues, please listen to the recording. Thank you. We acknowledge each other, we support, and we have each other's back. Accountable, we do what we say, and we celebrate success together, and feeling safe, so psychological safety. So I'll touch on this a little bit more in a moment, and that we can be vulnerable with each other. Charmaine, Jackie and Jeff, there's not one person here where I would feel like I don't trust them, I don't respect them, I feel very safe with them. So certainly it was a team that I look back and I think it's probably the best team I've worked in. I'm just going to check the chat box just to clear the messages because I can see 19 notifications. Looks like I'm a little bit concerned, chat. So we've got a few messages here that's saying that they can hear or they can't hear. Shall I just disregard those messages, chat?
I think we have to, because it's mixed messages and some people can hear you and some people can't. So it has to be on their end.
Okay, no worries then. Thank you.
Just to reassure that we are recording this webinar, so whatever they have missed, they can watch it later on as well. So it's good to check their settings on their end.
Okay, thank you. Apologies that some of you can't hear me. So what does, in terms of Teams, I'm just going to move the video across because it's blocking the headlines of the PowerPoint. In terms of working in sport, you've got team players who hog the ball and tend to score. I play basketball and there's one team member. His name is Calvin, and he tends to be the one who is always scoring and he doesn't pass the ball. The team player that is a team player certainly is the one that is a shooter, but they know that if they pass the ball, it's about winning together, not just one person. So in terms of that, when it comes to playing a sport, it's very obvious. Similar concept when it comes to the workplace. There was a company that talked about teamwork being one of their key values. They used the analogy of a band. When a band, when they're playing music focused and they synchronize, the music is played beautifully. It can be just 2 of you in a team. It can be 4 of you in a team. One way or the other, it's all about having focus, staying on the same page, having the same goals. Your heart and mind are as one. You care for one another, and that's what good teamwork looks like. So just going to touch on this very briefly, and I will invite you to have a look at the resources that will be displayed in the PowerPoint slides. You will get a copy of the slides so you can click on the links. I'm just curious if any in the group chat, if you can just let me know if you've heard of this before. Forming, storming, norming, performing, the 4 stages of team development, just in the chat. Yes, no, maybe. Okay. Got a few yeses. Thanks, Helen. Thanks, Melanie. Dan hasn't. That's good. All good. Thank you, Susie. Yes. Okay. Thank you. So here is the forming, storming, norming, performing. I will leave that for you to read through the detail, but essentially when a form is established, they are new team members and you're just getting to know each other. Tends to be the honeymoon stage when you're getting to know people, everything's nice and lovely. Then you have the storming stage where things start getting real. You start to notice people's differences and there's a little bit of conflict. You notice that there are different working styles and you can get frustrated. Once you work out and you iron out the differences and you work towards norming stage where the team develops a set of norms, and then this is where you can see the relationships are stronger, you expected work behaviors are identified, and then eventually it's the performing stage where the team is mature and capable and you can see results. So certainly that's the 4 stages. It's very helpful to know this because it will then help you to identify where you're at in the team, and perhaps during the last 6 to 12 months, you're possibly at the storming stage for a while now. And that now that it's slowly getting back into the office, you're starting to be at the norming stage and eventually performing. So it's really good to know this. I'll give you an example of a client that I coached in his interview skills where he shared an example where he was an operations manager and he had 15 team leaders that reported into him. He put them all in a workshop for a whole entire day and really they were at the storming stage just to, in terms of a little bit of confusion over their roles. All 15 team leaders had a different view of what their role entails and responsibilities and expectations. So as a result of the 1-day team building day, they were able to be all on the same page in terms of their vision, their goals, expectations as one team and set their goals for the team. So certainly very powerful to get your team members in a workshop in a whole day just to work out their role, responsibilities, their expectations, etc. Okay. So Google actually did a research study across the globe. They identified 180 teams to study, and it included a mix of high and low performing teams. What they worked out was this is the ingredients to a successful team. The first one being psychological safety, where team members feel safe to take risks and be vulnerable in front of each other. We'll look at this in a more detail in a moment. And then second, dependability, team members get things done on time and meet Google's high bar for excellence. And then you've got the structure and clarity. Team members have their clear roles, plans and goals. And then fourth, meaning. The work is personally important to the team members. And then 5 is team members think that their work matters and create change and making that impact. So that was the top 5 things that forms a successful team. So going back to Jeff, Charmaine, and Jackie, that's probably the one thing that really connected us, that feeling safe to take risks and be vulnerable in front of each other. So psychological safety, in a team with high psychological safety, teammates feel safe to take risks around their team members. They feel confident that no one on the team will embarrass or punish anyone else for admitting a mistake, asking a question, or offering a new idea. So just to reflect, in terms of you being all managers here mostly, to think about, do you think, actually ask this question in your one-on-one meetings with your team members. Do you feel safe in the team? Do you feel safe to admit a mistake or ask a question or offer a new idea, just to be able to find out from the team how safe do they feel? So teamwork behaviours, here is a reference I've got from the National Association of Colleges and Employers in New South Wales. So here, as you can see, these are some of the behaviours they've listed here. You can just have a read yourself to just see clearly what are the sample behaviours of what good teamwork looks like. I will draw your attention to the last bullet point, which is to build strong, positive working relationships with supervisor and team members and co-workers. And that is what we'll be looking at in a moment. Just quickly checking the chat box. Okay, chat, can I just double check with you around the last couple of messages?
Yeah, so Leonie, some of our participants are having issues, not everyone. So I think it's 2 or 3 people. I would suggest using the Zoom link that I sent through to join. I think someone used it and it's working for them. So 2 or 3 people had issues with hearing the sound, and it seems to working fine for some. It's not on our end, it has to be from their end.
Okay, thank you so much. Just checking in. I just want to address that because the chat, I would do look at the chat box for comments from time to time. Thank you. All right, so first is to fully try and to understand your team members. Seek to understand before you seek to be understood, Stephen Covey. It's one of my favorite books. It's pretty, it's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a business classic, over 25, I think from memory, this says the over 15 million copies sold, but from what I read recently, it was over 25 million copies sold. So certainly a really good book to refer to, but he does talk about, seeking to understand people, seeking to understand your team members before they can understand you. So spending that time and effort, and that's what we're going to talk about now. So to get to know each other, I mentioned earlier the Ford method. This is a method I learned from working with CBA a few years back, where relationship managers who are working with their clients over a period of time would try and work out more information about their clients. So the F stands for family. To really get to know a person, to just eventually find out more about their family members, their occupation as well, current job, previous jobs, previous experiences working in teams. If you've worked, most of you have said that you have worked in a fun and innovative team, talk about that. R stands for recreation, what to do in your spare time. And D stands for dream. So over a period of time, this is a very good, simple activity you can work in your team meetings, and just to get everyone to interview each other and get to know each other, to really get to know each other at a deeper level when you're able to find out more about them from all these areas. I'm just going to take a moment just to in the group chat, just to, if everyone can just write in their position title. I'm curious, what is your position title at work? In the chat box. We've got a CEO. Thank you, Stacey. Head of Impact and Engagement, Exec. We've got some really interesting titles here today. Linda, thank you. Dan. Manager Crisis Support. Thank you. We've got some directors here. Oh my goodness, that's wonderful, wonderful. It's a great place to be. The Karen, Katie, Head of People and Culture. Perfect. All right, okay, let's move along. It's good to know. All right, so clarity, what does teamwork mean to you? It's important to find out what the definition, everyone, what do they think of is teamwork? You might think it's one thing, your team members may think it's completely different. I worked at a training company for a short period of time, and they actually use Lego to in a workshop. We were in a workshop talking about our vision and values of that company, and you were required to design a model with Lego to describe what teamwork looks for you. And I built a model, and then after you build the model in your groups, you were then using that model to explain what does that mean to you. So being able to use something visual to then explain it really can make a big difference in the way you communicate the expectations of what does teamwork look like. They actually used this training company actually used Lego to help a group of staff members, we're probably looking at hundreds of staff that were having problems with work and health and safety issues at Toll. And so they brought the employees in, used Lego to talk about work health and safety. What does it mean to you? And as a result, they actually were able to reduce the amount of incidents in the workplace, being able to identify what does success look like in work health and safety. So very good activity in terms of teamwork, using Lego or visual aids to help communicate what does that look like in terms of what does teamwork look like. So now that we have so many different people who are in various different position titles, I'm very curious, have you heard of the DISC profile? Possibly many people might say yes to this question, especially anyone who's a HR manager. Thank you, Sandra. And the head of people and culture. Anyone has an HR background may know about this. Yes, Wendy's used it. No, Helen, Dan, no. Okay, that's okay if it's yes, no, and not. That's all good. So I'm just going to talk very briefly about this. So the D stands for dominance, I stands for influence, C stands for compliance, and S stands for steadiness. And there's links, websites here for you to refer to for more detail. The dominant person, the characteristics of a dominance person. I'm just take a step back that we all have D, I, C, S in our profiles, and it's that sometimes we have more of the D or more of the I. So for dominance, the characteristics are the results orientated, direct, competitive. Usually I have found sometimes you'll find a lot of salespeople are in this with the high D, and sometimes it's CEOs, leaders, managers, and so that's a high D. It can get complicated when you have a team of all Ds in the one team. And then you've got I that are influential, enthusiastic, friendly, optimistic. And the I's, I worked with a training manager in the past, and she managed a team of 20 trainers. And she said out of 20 trainers, 19 out of 20 were all I's, the influencers. Influential. And then you've got the C, which are compliance focused. They're accurate and they're cautious, they're contemplative. They tend to be IT professionals, engineers and accountants, very detailed technical backgrounds. So certainly they're task orientated. I remember vividly working in a college one time, and we had a finance team of 5-10 people, very task orientated, and they were not paying attention to the construction that was occurring right next to them, and not even worried about their own safety. They'll focus on getting the job done. And then you've got the S, their steadiness. S stands for steadiness. They're sincere, patient, and modest. And you find that people who are in more supportive roles, administration, customer service roles, they can be a bit more of the S. So that's just a very, very, very brief overview of the DICS, the DISC profile. The I's and the S tend to be more people orientated. The CS are more reserved, and DC are task orientated. D and I are more outgoing. So on that note, I'm very curious in here, just looking at the profiles very briefly, what do you think you may be? It could be one or two, like I am an I and a D. So feel free to share just on your reflection, just looking at that very briefly. What do you think in terms of your personality profile, you think you'll be more D, I, S, or C? D and I, yep, D and I, DC, yes. Okay. Thanks, Katie. Thank you, everyone, thanks, Melanie. All right, so when it comes to teamwork, I'll just illustrate just a very simple example. I've seen this across many organizations I've worked with, that you've got the salesperson, the sales team, and the finance team, sales and finance. The sales team tend to be quite high D, and the finance team tend to be quite C. So, and in fact, the sales team, their C is quite low. So then actually not that, their attention to detail maybe not as strong. So they get frustrated with detail. But the C, the finance team love detail and compliance. So for them, there's a lot of conflict sometimes I see in sales and compliance team, sales and finance team, where the finance person is talking to the salesperson about an invoice, and the salesperson cannot get the number correctly. And then therefore you have conflict where the finance team thinking that the salesperson is incompetent because they can't get the detail right. And the sales team may get frustrated with the finance team that it's just a small number. Why can't you just fix it yourself? So there are differences within profiles, and being able to understand whether you are more high D or high I or high C or S or low or high can be a game changer for your business, for your team. Now, at Western Sydney University, the IT team, they do not hire anyone until they find out exactly which profile are you. They know in their team who is an I and the various profiles, and they're trying to maximize productivity in their team and have a diverse team by ensuring that when they hire people, they use the DISC profiling to make sure that there's balance in their team. Now, recently, one of my associates reached out to me and said, we're looking for an accounts payable person, and these are the requirements, but however, on the DISC profile, we're looking for someone who is a high C, but they're also, one moment, the high C, accounts payable, but they're also potentially a high I, because everybody in the team is quite a high C. So they want someone who's got a bit more of an I. So certainly in recruitment, you can see that it can assist a lot of the hiring managers to make a decision in hiring. So to consider behavioral profiling, personality assessments when you are in the workplace. And please have a look at the resources that are in the links of these slides. Okay. So moving along, we talked about psychological safety before, and here we'll be looking at strengths and weaknesses. Now, the behavior, as mentioned before in teamwork, is to employ personal strengths, knowledge, and talents to complement those of others. So this book here, confession, I have not read this book. Currently, I'm reading another book by the same author. It's called Getting Naked, and it is about how do you identify the three fears that sabotage client loyalty. The author writes very well, and it's brought my attention to this book, which I have looked at the book review and identified two of the things that the author has suggested that I'd love to share with you. The first is to facilitate a workshop with team members in sharing their strengths and a weakness. This is a great way to find out each team member's strengths, what they're really good at, and what they enjoy doing, and also a weakness that they may have. By being vulnerable, you can easily build a stronger connection and the trust and the respect. And then in the book also shares that there is a leader that she was able to, she shared that previously in her career, she was managing a team poorly, and as a result, she got fired, and then being able to communicate with her team, her goals for success and therefore that helped build that connection. So it's great that you're manager leaders here, because as a leader, you can create that the trust and respect, and being vulnerable first, to lead by example, to be able to create an environment where people are able to share their strengths and weakness. And I think in all the leadership research I've seen is for good leaders to really encourage a culture of being able to make mistakes. Of course, that you can make mistakes, but certainly to learn from your mistakes. And to be able to create a space where you can share your lessons learned. So some simple things such as being kind is key. Now, I am very aware that some teams are slowly getting back, some are already back in the office and some are not back in the office. Recently, I was in the office and one of my colleagues needed help with creating a QR code for some marketing material. Now, it took me 5 minutes to complete that task. I had a full day with lots of things to do, but I can see that my work colleague needed a bit of help. And so I quickly created the QR code for her, 2 QR codes, and sent it to her via email. And that saved her day. It would have taken her easily up to an hour to try and work it out herself. So just in successful teams, taking a moment in your day, I mean, you're all very busy people, especially your managers and directors here, that you have a schedule of 1,000 things you want to do in your day. Sometimes it only takes you 5 minutes to be kind, to think about, do something for someone else that's not part of your agenda for the day, and it can make a world of difference to that person. The other thing that worked very well when I was in a HR role many years back, where I hired 30 people in that team, is a simple technique called management by walking around. And that acronym there is an acronym for that. So management by walking around. So taking the time to simply walk around in the office and just saying hello to people. Just being kind, genuinely saying hello, how are you? Making that time to just connect with people. People tend to nowadays, when you call someone, when you meet with someone, there's always an agenda for business and so forth. But just saying hello can make the biggest difference. And create a space where you can share knowledge and experience. We are using Teams at Western Sydney University, and in the team, I've created a Teams chat group where it's called Reflections, and this is where I would go in and share a reflection of, for example, today I'm delivering this webinar. What lessons I learned, what went well, what lessons did I learn, what can I do to improve? Create a space where you can share your knowledge and experience so you can learn from one another. If you're all in a face-to-face environment, then, you know, back in the day when we were more face-to-face, generally after a meeting, after training, you can spend some time for reflection, and that's a really good time where you can share your knowledge and experience and recap on what have you learned from that. So it's important to create a space where you can share the knowledge and experience, because I'm finding that people aren't doing it. People are working silos and we're not making time for the reflection and the connection. Now, vision and values. So certainly something I love is to create a workshop, a day where you identify your team, the personal values of the individuals. What are the individuals' personal values? The company values. What are the company's values? What are the expected behaviors? So anyone here is in HR or in a CEO role, to actually look at, you know, you've got key core values, but what are the expected behaviors of those values? And then the personal vision of individuals and the team's vision. So what does success look like? And this may take you half a day to a day to really workshop out what does success would really look like. And that way, then everyone has the same vision. So this is a small business that it was my accountant back in the day. She's now retired, but she had her mission and the vision of success and the values that was on a banner. and they use this in their team meetings all the time. Her business then won an award for best practice for implementing the vision and values and the mission for her company. Similarly, Transport for New South Wales have their values and safety, collaboration, integrity, customer focus, and solutions. So they refer to their values all the time. For fun stuff, certainly I worked at a bank many years ago, another bank, and in this particular team, they had a wheel where they were using, and with that wheel, you spin it on a Monday morning. They'll spin, and a staff member will win an award, Employee of the Week, and what they did for this was that they invited all staff during the week to use a post-it note. They had the values on the board, and they had a post-it notes to actually encourage team members to write the value. Let's say, for example, Helen, I know someone's in the group named Helen. She has demonstrated the value of collaboration, and write a few words about how Helen demonstrated the value of collaboration, and then they will then collect the post-it notes at the end of the week, and the manager, operations manager, will nominate the winner for the week, and then they'll spin the wheel of fortune and win a prize. And that was a lot of fun. So thinking about, you've got your vision and your values, but then thinking about games and challenges to actually create that fun and innovative culture. So now this is a very good website to refer to, called the VIA character.org here. It's the VIA 24 character strengths. There's 24 there. Very interesting. It's a free questionnaire for people to complete. It will be wonderful for you to complete it yourself, and you'll see what your character strengths are. For number one for me is honesty. So if I'm working with someone in the team who is lying, that does frustrate me a great deal. If your number one strength is leadership, then you will be very frustrated if you worked with anyone who demonstrates poor leadership. If your number one is creativity, then you will be very frustrated if you worked in a workplace that does not promote innovation or creativity. So very useful to find out, and great for everyone in the team to complete it and come together, group, and talk about their strengths and talk about their reflections of it, and discuss how it impacts them, all these various strengths. Okay, so we've gone through a lot of content, so I'm just going to quickly run through the 16 seconds, just box breathing. So the instructions are to inhale through the nose for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 4 seconds, exhale through the mouth for 4 seconds, and then hold for 4 seconds. So just follow my voice and close your eyes if you can. So to inhale through the nose for 4 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Take a deep breath. Okay, let's continue. We still have a lot of content to go through. Thank you. That simple reset the mind, 16 seconds. It is a great way to, in between your meetings, just to take 16 seconds a break. So in terms of communication, there is an event coming up called Conquer the Art of Communication that I'm delivering. So I'll be touching on this very briefly. First thing here is to simply find out from your work colleagues in your teams, what's their preference these days? Everyone has a preference, whether they prefer text messaging, online messaging, phone calls, face-to-face meetings. Find out what works for people. I'm finding that the power of having the face-to-face conversations, you build such a strong connection, the heart and mind, and I'm making an extra effort to meet people face-to-face because I really want to connect deeper with people around me. So take the initiative. If working from home is very comfortable, but certainly take the initiative to go out and meet people face to face more, and it makes the biggest difference in the quality of that connection. The phone calls, I'm thinking it's a forgotten skill, working with lots of students and graduates at the university, and people are, young people are scared to make a phone call. And nowadays, everything's messaging online. I encourage people to make effort to make phone calls just to say hello. I received a phone call from someone I know who works for a professional association, and she just called me out of the blue just to say hi. And because of that, I've invited her to meet up next week for a lunch. So building my network is key in my business. So certainly very, very rare to get phone calls to say hello. So certainly make that effort to connect with your team members, just to call and say hi, just hello. Then you've got obviously your video conferencing, whether you're using Zoom or Teams or any other technology. Schedule in to meet with people online for a coffee. Not to talk about work, just to have coffee, have lunch, just build on those connections in the team. Maybe set yourself a challenge that you can be the first in the team to organize these meetings within the team. Online messaging, obviously some companies have this platform for messaging online, some companies don't, but certainly it is the norm, but some people don't like it. So work out what works in terms of the preference for your colleagues, what works for them, in the best way to communicate. And email communication, keep it clear and concise. I recommend simply keep it to approximately 5 lines. Of course, if it's a complicated matter, you will have to provide more information. If you're going to provide a lot of information, I would recommend to, especially within your team, to just create a separate document as an attachment. If you look at the various profile in the DISC, the DISC, some of the profiles D and I don't like too much detail. For example, there are some people who don't like it because some of you may be, very high D or high I, and then also high C. But certainly, just being mindful of some people are detail focused, some people aren't. They don't like too much information. So having that balance, but noticing what works for your team. Managing expectations. Now, I'm going to walk through this very quickly because all the fun stuff I need to get to in a moment. The role and responsibilities, to be really clear on that. Sometimes, a lot of times, when there's conflict, it's because the role and responsibilities are unclear. Being very, very clear of timelines. We talked about communication preferences. Work out the days of work, what days people are working, especially if you're leaders and managers, creating a place where people can see who's working when, what days are working from home. What I've noticed is that there are companies out there that they create, one of my colleagues worked for another university, and she said in the Teams chat, they have a group, in the team. So the protocol is when you come into work, you log in online, you will say good morning to people. And when you leave for the day, you say goodbye. And I think that's the best way to work online, is by simply going into a chat to say good morning, goodbye. I remember vividly many years ago working with operations manager of a college. She said, you come into work, you say hello to everyone when you come into work. You don't just walk into your seat and sit there. You say hi to everyone. And when you leave for the day, you say goodbye to everyone. And I found that was probably something so simple, yet so important. I've worked for other organizations where there is no hello and there is no goodbye and there is no thank you. So that people just go in, do their work at home and don't even talk to each other. So certainly just to create a space where you can just chat. Managing automatic replies when people are in and out of work. It's really important to know when you are in or not. Email communication, we talked about clear and concise, and I'll talk through more about email communication in our upcoming webinar. The weekly team meetings at Commonwealth Bank, they ask for what are your 5 MPAs every single week. MPAs stand for most powerful actions, so that each team member identifies what is the 5 most powerful actions for the week, and in the weekly team meeting, you will commit to these 5 actions, and then you will review it the next week and focus on the next 5. So this helps build accountability within the team. So key is to do what you say. I think that's the essential part. A lot of times people are just not following through, not getting it done, not communicating when they're not getting it done. So just simply, if you do what you say, then everyone will be happy. But it's important to manage expectations within the team, because obviously if your team member are expecting high or low expectations, you want to manage those expectations closely. And when I'm not working in the office and I'm away on leave, I always inform my team that I'm not here, or put an out of office or some form. It's the days when you're not in the office, then everybody needs you. So really important to manage those expectations within your team. Talking about design thinking, now this is going to take us a bit of time to go through watching the video. It will take 2 minutes, and I am going to play this video because it explains it very well, extremely well. So please stay with me. Thank you.
Design strategy is about thinking differently, putting yourself in your customer's shoes, to design solutions that not only fit their needs but delight them, by empathizing through observing people in real-life scenarios like shopping, or through open-ended interviews to uncover what people do rather than what they want. Because if you ask people what they want, they don't necessarily know. By immersing yourself in your customer's world, you can understand their needs, gains and pains. How? 1. Empathize. Immerse yourself in your customer's world. 2. Define the non-obvious insights. 3. Ideate. Brainstorm solutions. 4. Prototype. Build an MVP, minimum viable product, of ideas in the shortest possible time. Then take those prototypes back to your customers and ask what they think. Design strategy starts with the customer, then offers the solution, not the other way around. For example, an Australian supermarket chain wanted to design a unique, engaging in-store experience to further set them apart from competitors. So we followed their customers around, interviewed them, and watched what was happening in store over a considerable period. Customers wanted to feel more connected with the suppliers of their produce, an in-store experience they couldn't find elsewhere. One of the winning ideas was an in-store milk dispenser with old-style glass milk bottles. Customers fill the bottles with single origin high-quality milk. They can see details of the cows and farms that produced it, with assurance the suppliers receive a better price. This experience delights customers and is very successful.
Okay.
Design.
So I have been involved in at least 3 or 4 different workshops on design thinking using the framework. And if you do go into a workshop and potentially facilitate this framework with your team, it can certainly build confidence in your team members and connection. So just to recap, the focus here is to empathize with the customers when you are working on a problem. But it's to first start with empathize. So for example, the workshop we participated in recently at the university, we had to think about our students, students and graduates, and thinking about in the last 2 years that they have been studying from home. How are they thinking? How are they feeling? What are their struggles? What are their thoughts, their beliefs, and what we call an empathy map that we created and to describe the student. So we actually I typed up about 3-4 pages describing all that about the student, and then we will define and then ideate and prototype and so forth. So with one of the projects I've worked on at the university, being able to empathize with the student made biggest difference in creating a micro-learning experience for students online and create a solution where they were able to learn about writing a resume, and then testing it with the students to see if if the ideas were good or not, and then capturing the feedback from the students, and then improving that particular micro learning experience. But it's using this framework to help to create something out of nothing. So, but the first is to empathize with the customers, with the students, with your customers. So if you're in your own businesses, you can get your team together and think about your customer and try and empathize with your customer. And then after you empathize, and then define what problems do you think the customer is experiencing, and agree on one of the problem statement, and then follow through with the process. Versus the traditional way of, here's a problem and this is how we solve it. So it's a very unique way of working, of problem solving and creating, cultivating innovation. But it does work, and it can be a game changer for your business, and it can be a game changer in terms of being competitive in the marketplace for any business. So that's design thinking. We'd probably be, because we were running about 3 minutes late before, we'll probably stay until exactly 1:38 p.m. and happy to stay back for any questions as well. So just in the chat box, I just want to know do you think that you will be able to implement this technique, or possibly consider implementing this technique? Yes or no, or M for maybe in the chat box. Thank you. Wendy, Cindy, Susie, thank you. Few maybes. Katie, thank you. All right. Okay. So on that note of saying thank you, I would like to share, chat, don't be shy. I sent a thank you card to Chat recently, and he received the card, and he actually opened the card today. And he said, I love this idea. Yeah, actually, Chat, how did you feel when you received the card?
I felt great. So such a simple thing, but you just made my day.
Thank you, Chat. So within your team, to acknowledge and thank each other, obviously via email, via chatting, I love cards, and I think that when you put pen to paper, it's a personal touch, because it's that person's writing going into the card, and they've thought about what they're going to write, and make the effort to either post it or physically give someone a card. Makes all the difference. It's a really powerful way to build a stronger connection within the team. And so in the project that I worked with a school of business at the university, we worked on this project for approximately 4 months. And as a result, there were about 10 people that I've just removed their names as part of this project, and this project has been very successful. First time in 10 years how we've been able to implement this project embedded into the curriculum of a degree. So I just acknowledge the team, and this is using a social media platform internally, where I tagged all the team members involved, and then even at the end I thanked the leadership team that I was part of, being able to acknowledge everyone. Now, I'm not very popular on this platform, because it's not something that I use all the time. We only received, I think this post received about 100 views, but that is definitely more than one view. On LinkedIn, if I posted this, it would have reached thousands of people easily. So certainly being able to acknowledge and thank people, making that time and effort can make all the difference. And then important at the end to celebrate success. So the School of Business was remarkable at the end of the project, invited the stakeholders for a lovely dinner to celebrate success. Okay, Now, if any of you have to go before 1:30, please feel free to leave. The recording will still continue, and we'll have a copy of the recording, because the next part is really fun stuff. So at CBA, Coles and Westpac, they have what they call team huddles. CBA, they have it from memory once a week. At Westpac, at least 2 mornings, at Mondays and Wednesdays at 8:30 a.m. for about 10-15 minutes. The whole entire 40 people in the careers team at that point in time would stand up and just participate in the meeting. Coles, daily huddles every single day, get together, talk about their goals, what their plans are for the day, and just continuously keep each other informed. And it's a really powerful way to connect. Now, whether it's online, whether it's face-to-face, I think that we're just not spending time to have these catch-ups. Recognition. So at the Western Sydney Uni, we have a session called Give Love to Team Members. So the meetings are on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And during those half-an-hour meetings, we will give an update of what's happening at work, and we will give love to team members. Is a way to just thank people, acknowledge people for their efforts, and it's a powerful way to connect. At Deloitte, one of my colleagues works for Deloitte, and they would go around and say, who do you want to give your shout out to? Big shout out to various team members. And my colleague Katrina, she said she was surprised that the whole team, majority of the team, all gave her the big shout out and reasons why we are giving a big shout out to this person. So that was a face-to-face meeting. Innovation and continuous improvement ideas. CBA have an initiative called Under the Rock. So they have a community of people who are part of the program who will just capture new ideas, and that is called Under the Rock. So certainly, is there a place, particularly if you're in a director role, CEO role, is there a place for you to capture innovation, continuous improvement ideas? They also have what they call core calibration, where you get to listen to, in the contact center, listen to 2 phone calls as a team, look at what was good about the call and what can you do to improve the quality of the call, and rate the call out of 10. What would you rate it out of 10? So certainly a really good way to look at what you're doing well, what you can do to improve, and having those discussions. And then we have wonderful icebreakers. I heard this from a director. He said that in the beginning of his meetings, he always go around in the room to just ask each person 60 seconds, what's on your mind? What's on your mind? And just get everyone to just quickly share, to just express themselves. Then one of the other icebreakers I love to use in my in 5 years, I've created online on a community. Apologies about that. My sincere apologies. The gratitude practice is a really good way to start a meeting and ask, what are you most grateful for in your life? It's a beautiful way to begin a meeting and build that connection in the group. And this one I've used very recently is to start a meeting within your team. What do you think is your key strength? And you just talk about it. Each person talk about their key strength. Another beautiful way to ask your team members to think about their strength. Some of us can be quite hard on ourselves, and we're always thinking about the things that we're not good at. So it's a really good opportunity to focus on the things that you are good at and to communicate that. I'm just going to quickly check the chat box. Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, let's continue. Now, 6 thinking hats. This is something that CBA uses. It's all these various hats. They actually have these colorful hats in their meeting rooms and welcome people to use these hats. So when you place a hat on, you will actually play the role of collecting the facts, the white hat, or play the role of the red hat, to all about your feelings, what's coming up for you. or be the devil's advocate and the caution and criticalness, the black hat. So be quite interesting if you've got someone who's always a devil's advocate to play a different hat and get them to wear the yellow hat and see if they can actually fulfill being the optimistic person. So so have a look at this website here that talks about the 6 thinking hats. Quite powerful way to create that fun and innovative culture in a team. Here is an image of what CBA, each team, about 15 staff members, would have a huddle board, and they'll stand around this huddle and have a look at the results and have a look at the good things, the fun things, etc. They also have a frame of each staff member and putting in birthdays of all staff members. Now, these are some simple things, very simple things, but sometimes it's the most simple things that people don't do. They also have a frame with a staff photo in it, and then have a quote, that person's favorite quote. That's my favorite quote, and their photo in it as well. So thinking about how can you personalize the experience at work. And then some wonderful team building activities. One of my very friends is a manager for an employment agency, and when she was managing a high-performing team, she actually used trophies for every single month. There will be an employee of the month who achieves the highest KPIs, and as a result, they get a trophy and a certificate. So I got the idea from her, and I recently made trophies for the group of people the communities that I have created over the last 5 years, and it was so well received. And they're only about $15 each. So it's not that expensive. Sometimes we think they're really expensive. But trophies and certificates, my friend said people were, working extra hard to get the trophy, to get the certificate. And you've got Transport for New South Wales have wellbeing series, and they have weekly meditations so people can participate in. You can have your meetings and have walking meetings instead of face-to-face meetings in a room. You can go for a walk. You can obviously have meals and drinks together. Really nice to have a barbecue. Usually barbecues are with family and friends, but having a barbecue at work can be quite different. Activities, bowling, painting, team sports, like you've got, in order to connect and build that connection, playing a team sport, recently playing basketball with the team at work and t-ball. It was so much fun, and the connection was so much more stronger. Lunch and learn sessions, so organize internal and external speakers to come in. They may just speak for 10, 15 minutes, but it's a really good opportunity to connect people and and share your reflections. Monthly challenges, so Chat was just talking about the 10,000 step challenge that's on at the moment, and there's many other organisations following through. It's certainly to create challenges for the team and have some team goals so everyone's working together as opposed to working against each other. So the best team at Western that I work with, we have wonderful Kate, who keeps a track of everybody's birthdays and everyone's farewells, and organises Group Together. If you like to use a really cool tool, it's called Group Together, where you can get everyone to write in the card online. You can also organise a gift as well at the same time, so it's very, very useful tool. Lunch and breakfast, you get together. End of year awards, so this is one of the awards I've created for a friend, but I received a very similar award through my team at work. So they called me Zen Master of the Year. It was just some funny things that you get. And so we had the end of year Christmas event, and people were giving out awards to all staff members. And that year I'd received 3 awards. So fun stuff, simple and fun. I talked about Sports Day and the meetings already. So to close, this is what we've covered today, a whole bunch of different ideas using design thinking, 6 thinking hats. Just a simple reflection from you, what are some of your key actions? I've got an example here. Add reflections or innovation ideas into your regular team meetings, add it to your agenda. In the chat, if you have a moment, that would be wonderful to write what's one action that you think your takeaway from today, that you're going to ensure you commit to that action, that would be great. And I will be here for the next 5 minutes or so for any further Q&A. What's one action? The monthly awards. That's wonderful. Thanks, Stacey. Yes, the trophy can make, it may be, I remember creating a trophy for my basketball team. We won grand final that year, and it has everyone's name on it. And one of the team members, the one is a high scorer, Calvin, he said, that's my first trophy I've ever received in my life. And I just thought, wow, it can be such a simple thing, yet can make the biggest difference. Thanks, Helen. Thanks, Stacey. Thank you, Dan. Give love. Yes, Cindy, it's so good. Such a good practice in the team. All the team members love it. We use that 3 times a week to opportunity just to acknowledge and thank each other. Dan, thank you so much. Ask the team to plot where they think they are on the forming, storming, the 4 stages. Thank you. Okay, we're going to stop recording in a moment just to open up for questions. And